My dad, he made a big mistake, which led to my mom divorcing him. Instead of facing it, he took off. Our dad, who hasn't been in our lives, is now in the hospital, has a brain tumor. He doesn't even look like my dad anymore. He looks so different. He showed me a physical visual of like sin, what sin does to us. And the Lord like spoke to me. He's like, this isn't my wrath, Karina. This is my grace. Now I'm like struggling even more. Like, this is not grace. And when I said that, he had tears flowing down his face. And then that was the last time I talked to him.
All right, here we go. Another episode of Life Upside Down. We're telling real stories of broken people that point to a living God. And Karina, we've been telling a lot of our story. And, you know, if you can't tell now, we are broken people, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're well into our story. We're recapping, you know, really our life in the last 13 years and just how we've seen God move. Before we dive in, I will say we left off where you were walking into the hospital and your dad was on the hospital bed, and the Lord ended up showing you some really powerful stuff. And so before we get in though, I want to give a little bit more context of us as kids. You know, we shared a little bit of, you know, our upbringing in our own stories, but Karina, I want you to open up with just a snapshot of who you were as a young one, maybe elementary, middle school age.
I was a big brat. I was
A big brat.
It's funny because I feel like all the like my teachers and friends probably didn't think I was like I was shy at school.
Like a Sour Patch
I was
Kid.
shy. I was shy elementary,
Yeah.
and like they thought I was just like sweet and kind, and I can be, but then with people that I was comfortable, is like if I don't have it my way, I can also
Yeah.
give
Yeah,
a piece of my mind, throw a fit, cry. But now I'm just a little brat.
Now you're just a little brat.
Little one, only because
Maybe
I
a
have the
little
Holy
one,
Spirit who convicts me, but I still have that nature in me that wants to like throw a fit. I mean, I'm a little brat compared to how bad I was. I was pretty bad.
I remember you told me you're a tomboy.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like to be a tomboy, Karina, middle or elementary school? What were you doing that was a tomboy?
I dressed like a boy, basically.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I always had like long basketball shorts.
I remember there's
oversized
you have a
t-shirts.
family picture where you're in this dress and you look so mad, and you told me it's because your mom made you put a dress on.
And it was like the ugliest dress in my
That is
opinion.
so
Like
funny.
it couldn't even be. It was such a 90s. I mean, it had the bows and
We love 90s
ribbons
stuff
and-
now. What are you
oh,
talking about?
No, not that dress. That dress
Oh,
will never
okay.
come back. But and then also my hair was always like down and messy. I didn't like brushing my hair.
Oh my gosh.
I like
Sounds
to
like
just play outside and just like let me be free and wild.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
I look like a little caveman,
Yeah.
but I don't know, little cave baby, whatever. But like, so my mom brushed my hair and it was like really like slipped back, like tight.
Oh yes, I remember that.
So like I probably cried from that, and then like an ugly dress, ugly shoes.
I heard that
And
hurts to get
I
the
looked
ponytail tight.
so mad. And you know what? It's so funny because like every time I see pictures of like Hispanic families, like a lot of people don't smile. I wasn't smiling in that one, and I feel like I always smile in all my pictures. In that one, I'm like,
Yeah, that's
and I knew I was so mad because of that dress. I was mad because she brushed my hair, and I still remember. Yeah, but
That's
my
so
hair was
good.
always up in a pony, long basketball shorts, oversized t-shirts, and like tennis shoes. Like that was just my
Sounds like a cutie.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny. You don't wear the basketball shorts anymore. A lot of
No.
sweatpants though.
Oh, sweatpants. But I'm also really pregnant, so
Yeah,
too. So
there's a reason for that. So, all right, give you a picture of me. I was actually a bug eater. Okay, and if you didn't know, the Huskers, their old name was the Bug Eaters, just for a little fun fact. But it wasn't in that term. It was in the fact that I ate bugs. I remember being in 5th grade, and I would just pop roly-polies in my mouth. Now, later on, through much counseling, I realized it's just for attention. No, I'm just kidding. I think I just did it for attention. But I would just randomly eat bugs. I remember eating a couple worms. I didn't chew them, okay? So it wasn't that gross, right?
I'm just gonna pretend they're gummy worms.
Yeah, we'll pretend they were gummy worms. But anyway, and another funny thing is like when I was in like, I remember it was peak like 5th grade, it peaked. Everyone said I looked like Jim Carrey. And they were just like, like I would always try to really press into that. Like I was trying to be funny and goofy. Got in a lot of trouble for just being a goofball in school. I was high
You still look like, I
ADHD.
feel like when you shave,
Do I?
you still, and you were Jim Carrey for a
I
while.
was Jim Carrey. I wonder if we'll put that picture up. But I was Jim Carrey this past Halloween for a staff meeting. It was really
You
funny.
needed a haircut anyway, so you let me give you the bowl cut.
It was
and
really bad. It was really bad. So hopefully we can work that one in. That'll be fun. But anyway, it's so funny though, because like a big part of my identity for so long is the Miami Dolphins. Like I remember having a shirt when I was like 8 years old, or a jacket when I was 8. Like I had a picture of it. And I was looking back recently. I'm like, why was like, when did I become a Miami Dolphins fan? Because they're like, nowhere close to where we're at. And I think I pinpointed it was Ace Ventura, because Jim Carrey was in that movie with the Dolphins. He had to rescue the mascot. And that's my only assumption. And it's so sad because literally I think I was probably a fan when I was like 2000. And Dan Marino, they're one of the best quarterbacks ever, left in 99. And ever since I've been a fan, they've been terrible. So that's been about 30 years of my team being awful.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've converted our boys. So we had 3
Yes,
boys.
yeah.
Our 2 older ones are Miami Dolphin fans.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're diehard. Yeah, I can tell it's because Dad is. Maybe they'll make it their own thing. But our 4-year-old always goes again. He goes for the team that's not the Dolphins.
That's so interesting.
And we actually asked him one time. We
And
said,
one of their rivals.
what was the
They were
team
playing
that
the Bills. It's
and
like
he actually
it's
stuck
their
with it. Like he says the Bills.
it's in their in division rival, and he was like, "I'm going for the Bills." I'm like, "What? What are you talking
Well, when
about?"
I asked him, I go, because I'm like, legitimately, like, do you really,
Yeah.
are you just saying that? And I go, so why don't you like the Dolphins? And he goes, I like a team that wins. I'm like, okay, he knows. He knows
I
why.
forgot about that. He did say that. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
He's
He's an
like,
observing kid
he's
in
not
general.
wrong,
And so,
honestly.
there you go.
I'm just hoping and praying by the time my kids are like my age, maybe they'll be good, which it's
I don't know.
that being said, the last 2 months in this season of our life, since we've been like pursuing life upside down, I didn't really watch any of football. And it's so funny because our 4-year-old noticed and he goes, Dad, how come you don't like football anymore? And I'm like, well, I've had more important things
Well,
going
son,
on.
they're
So.
not winning.
And they
so.
suck. So if they were in the Super Bowl, I'd probably be watching more. But anyway, so that's
Oh
little
my
Ryan. I was
gosh.
a bug eater, kind of a weirdo, Miami Dolphins fan, in a lot of trouble.
Jim
Plenty
Carrey.
of trouble. So anyway, just love giving a little bit more context to our life. And so now we're gonna jump back into the story. Karina, you just walked in to the hospital, and God showed you a lot.
Yeah, so I left off where we're talking about how we get this phone call. Our dad, who hasn't been in our lives, is now in the hospital, has a brain tumor, and so then basically he got so bad where we decided to put him on hospice, but now we're gonna transport him from Texas to where we're at, just because this is where we're here, his siblings, aunts, uncles, we're all here, and so we transport him over here. And now I get to see him because my sisters were in Texas taking care of him. And then, but now he's on hospice. So he's sleeping and he's, so I'm preparing myself for just your typical, I mean, it's hard still, but your typical saying goodbye, grieving, seeing him one last time kind of stuff. I wasn't prepared for what the Lord was going to show me. And so, we get a babysitter because I'm like, I don't know how bad or good this is going to be. So I walk in the hospital, and just his appearance from the beginning is intense. Hospice, you're not eating, you're not drinking. So
Yeah.
he's dehydrated, he's
Mm.
starving to death. And so he doesn't even look like my dad anymore. He looks so different. He's typically my skin tone, maybe a little lighter, but now he's dark and his skin looks like a raisin where it's so dehydrated. And he just looks so tiny, short and tiny. And I remember just observing everything in his body. I'm feeling his hands, I'm looking at his face, his feet, hands, because I'm trying to just take in as much as I can. This is the last time. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to I'm a visionary, visual person. So, and I mean, I also he was breathing through his mouth at this point, so I could see his like, in his mouth, and his teeth are, like, cracked and
Mm.
shattered, and I asked the nurse, like, "So why are his teeth cracked?" Like, she made a comment that when he was awake, like, they tried chemo, and it didn't work, but the chemo is basically burning him on the inside, and
Mhm.
they said he felt like he made a comment to my aunts and stuff that he felt like he was put in a microwave,
Oh,
and his bones, everything was burning up inside. So he would grind and clench really hard where his teeth were cracked and like chipped. And then his tongue was like shriveled up so bad from how thirsty he was. And so I'm just seeing him and I'm like, oh, this is bad. Like
mm.
I'm thinking, I mean, I know you did bad things. You know, walking away from your family is bad. And I'm just like, what? Like, how bad do you have to be for God to like? Because I'm seeing God's wrath. I'm like, what did you do to deserve this? Like
I
this.
remember you saying that your aunts and your family were also kinda asking those same questions.
Well, yeah, I mean, my siblings are in there. And there's like aunts and uncles walking in now. I could kind of hear them in the hallway crying. And like even they would say things like, Lord, why, and why are you doing this to our brother? Or like, how could you? And they're questioning his goodness too. And I'm wrestling with his goodness. Like it's all in my head, obviously.
With God's
Yeah,
goodness.
like, I'm just, like, having a conversation with my thoughts, like, "God, like, why?" 'Cause I'm like, my mom died instantly in a car accident, so she went boom fast, right?
Mm,
So I'm like, Was this necessary? Like, did he have to suffer like this?" You know? And it's hard to see someone in that condition and think like, "Oh, yeah, God loves him." Like, God loves
mhm.
my dad,
Yeah.
and like God loves us, like me and my sisters, because I'm like, we're crying, we're hurting by seeing him like this. I'm like, it's just hard to see a loving God with who has grace and mercy when everything looks so bad. And once again,
Mm,
I'm leaning on my own understanding, my own, you know, my own feelings. But I'm asking those questions, and the Lord like spoke to me, and once again, it's not this audible voice. It's just like I feel like the Holy Spirit is just speaking to my spirit, and I
mhm.
can feel what he's saying. So, he's like, "This isn't my wrath, Karina. This is my grace."
Mm,
And I'm just like, "What? Like this isn't grace. Like this is." And then now I'm like struggling even more. Like this is not grace. Like
yeah.
this is grace. That's not good. But I'm just like, "No." And he was like, "Yeah, Karina." Cause then I'm like, well, why'd you have to do this? Why not quick? Why not instant? Like he could have, why didn't he like collapse when his brain was so swollen? Why didn't he just instantly die? Like his brain give out? Why?
Mm,
And the Lord's like, Karina, he had to go through this because his pride was so strong. His pride was so strong, so real that I had to like humble him, let him go through this pain and go through this. So he basically showed me like this is his grace where like he's giving my dad a shot to like humble himself before he spends eternity in hell,
mm,
you know? And so yeah, and so he's showing me like no, the pride that your dad had was so bad that he had to come to the end of himself, like humble himself. And my dad's always been that kind of man like I can do it. I got it, I'll figure
yeah.
it out. And I'm kind of
Mhm.
like that too. But it's like
Yes, you are.
and we're all prideful, right? Like we all have pride, but I truly believe that like his family line and his name has some kind of generational, like a really strong hold
Mm,
with pride. And to give you an idea, it's like so his mom, my grandma's grandpa was he started a revolution in Mexico, Chihuahua, and they have a statue of him. And she came from, like, money, they had, like, a driver and, like, butler and stuff. This is stuff I've gathered from my uncles and my mom and my sister, but she comes from money, And they're just like, this is our name. This is who we are, where we
Yeah.
come from. And unfortunately my grandma had married with someone that they didn't approve of, so she was
Mm.
kind of like pushed out. Um and then her husband was like an alcoholic, also prideful. He seemed like a guy who was always trying to like prove himself.
Prove himself. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you were never good enough, or and so he was really rough with my dad and my uncles and my aunts. I heard a story from my uncle um that when he was a young boy, like I think it's like 12 or 15, around that age, he got in trouble with him for something, and my grandpa like tied a rope around his neck and hung him on a tree
My gosh.
until he turned purple,
Wow.
and then he cut him down and told him, next time you won't be so lucky. Just to give
Mm.
you an idea what kind of disciplinary he did.
Yeah.
And like another one, my mom told me this. So my grandpa wasn't a fan of my mom because she came from nothing. My mom came from like a more super poverty, super
Yeah.
like there's days
More
where
humble.
my mom didn't eat sometimes. She's fainted from hunger before growing up. So she came from like nothing. And so my grandpa was not okay with my dad being with her.
Mm.
And then my mom had my sister, my older sister, and she had told me that my grandpa, like, he set it on fire.
Their house or something. Oh yeah.
Well, they had like a wood burning stove, and he threw like gasoline
Yeah.
or fuel or something in it, and it like just went everywhere. And so his intention was to burn her, like have her in there with my sister, and she got out. So
Wow.
so that was what my dad was growing up with.
Yeah.
And so I feel like my dad was always, I can, it makes sense now as a parent and as an adult, like I can see like how he was always proving himself to society,
Yeah.
trying to make something of himself. And like my dad, and just like looking back, like he was always doing something, always striving to do something big. Like he managed a band and they toured, and they're getting pretty well known. And then until like him and my mom divorced and he like went to Mexico, but he like was always, even just with the house I talked about with my mom, the one that she left for us, when he bought that house, or when they bought it, it was like probably the crappiest house in the block, but it was the biggest one.
Big,
It
yeah.
was just, it needed a lot of work. But he was very visionary like me, very visual. So he saw potential, and he like worked nonstop. He fixed it up so nice. He like built this really nice new driveway all around it, and then like just made it really nice. It was the nicest house in the block. But he was always trying to like
Yeah.
work for, build his name up, and very materialistic, like who
Yeah.
he is, what he does, where he lives, like what people say about him. He was the cool, fun uncle, and anyways, and then when he moved to Mexico, he was building a big house on some land over there, and like he would always talk about it, and just that alone, it just shows you how like, how scripture talks about to not have your treasures
Yes.
here on earth, like, and I saw that with my dad. It's like I always saw him working so hard for whether it's for him, like his name, or like what he owns, what he has, to say, hey, look at me, look who I am. And it like doesn't matter at the end,
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, when he passed away and went down to the ground, there went his name. There went like everything he worked for, the house that he worked so hard for, um, all the wood and everything, like it rotted.
It rots, yeah.
The house fell apart. It's
Mm.
not the nicest house anymore. So like it just shows you how everything will crumble and fall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, I think about, as we think of where he was at, as you're describing your visit with him, he's literally at the end of himself. He's like all the stuff you just talked about. And that's the danger of building your life around this system and this world and for these these physical
Temporary
pleasures and temporary
materials.
materials, because
Mhm.
like he's there and he can't take any of his whole life's purpose. Basically, that's how he lived his life, chasing these things and building up his name, which ended up kind of going downhill, and all the stuff he had, literally his life's work. And that's the danger of investing so much into this world. And that's where the Bible talks about, like, don't store up your treasures in heaven, or don't store up your treasure here on earth, but in heaven. And the thing is like, I literally feel like I was just 5 years old and I've blinked and now I'm 35 years old, halfway to 40. It's just like, what? Like, literally, I'm going to blink again and I will basically be almost 80 years old on my way to my deathbed. And so time flies so fast, and I think that's the wisdom of the Bible right there. It's like, yeah, it feels like it's like, man, these pleasures are so great. I'm sitting comfortable in this house, and you're gonna blink, and it's all gonna be gone. Your family was talking about, and the nurses too, about how your dad is literally crying out to God, saying, "God, forgive me. I'm so sorry." So if you want to kind of bring it back to that moment with your dad and kind of some of that.
Yeah, so before he was asleep and he was awake in Texas, my aunts and my sisters were there. They said that he would wake up, and he would scream like, "Lord,
Man.
forgive me for everything." And like the nurses could hear him down the hall. So that's how much that the pain humbled him and brought him to God's feet. And I think that was a moment him and anybody, right, would see, oh shoot, like
Yeah.
I need something bigger than myself. Like I'm not as big as I thought I was.
Yeah.
And you call on someone and something higher, and like God is that higher. And like sometimes pain in life needs to humble us, like, oh yeah, we're not God. We can't do this, and like in those times too, we were talking about how he invested so much time and effort on the materialism and his name and the things that this world says to chase, which don't matter, right, at the end of the day. Um, but now he was just so like he had very little time and he just wanted to like talk to us like his kids. Like
Mm.
he just wanted to tell us so much. He wanted to tell us how much he loved us, how sorry he was. Um the things that you should be doing throughout your life is
Yeah,
like
investing in.
investing in your legacy and your children, because that's what remains when you're gone. That is how your
Mm.
name can be an impactful thing. Because when
Wow.
you're gone, they're going to carry that legacy and that name and like your character and habits, where like you might still get talked about. Like I still talk about my mom like all the time, And that is where you really need to invest that. I think he's seen that like crap, like everything
That's
else failed me. Everything else doesn't matter. And we're over here, and you can tell he just wants to tell us so much, and it's in between his naps because he's
yeah.
starting to go to bed. And it was sad. It was like, and
Mm.
there's times where I would FaceTime him and he would be like, "Can you please come to Texas? Like I just want," and it's like, I can't,
Yeah.
but it's like I can only imagine he just has so much to say.
Hey, I hope that you are enjoying this episode. I just wanted to come in real quick and let you know that we are a nonprofit podcast that is made possible largely by donations. If you have been encouraged by anything you've heard here on Life Upside Down and you feel led to give, you can click the QR code and head over to our giving page. We truly want to say thank you so much. Every gift makes it possible for us to continue to tell more people about our living God.
So I was saying like in that moment though, so I'm seeing, okay, this is definitely your grace. Like it was such a humbling moment for me too, because I'm over here like, oh gosh, God's wrath. And when he showed me, I'm like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry. Like this is so your grace. I'm so thankful. And now I'm seeing, wow, you really love him, because for you to be this holy, great God, to go out of your way to still give him one more chance. Like he's had so many chances in life,
Mm.
and he still gave him that one chance, from spending eternity in hell.
Yeah.
And like, and then like, and he cares about us because he's doing this for us, you know?
Yeah.
And so now I'm saying like, wow, you are this big loving God. You are this, and I hate that like, God has to keep showing me that. It's like,
Yeah.
how do I not know that already with everything that life has done? But I'm just like, wow, this is your grace. Everyone's still seeing God's wrath. And I'm like, wow. Now I'm like in awe of him, even though everything still looks pretty bad. Um, but and just seeing my dad too, another thing he showed me was like he showed me a physical visual of like sin, what sin does to us.
Mm.
Because like we hear about sin and how it leads to death. And it does, like spiritually, right? Sin,
Yeah.
the cost is like hell, right? Punishment, this debt that we can't pay for. But like I'm seeing this physical, like what sin can literally do to you.
To your actual physical
Yeah.
body.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
was going to touch on this. So I'm not going to go in details, but my dad, he made a big mistake and which led to my mom divorcing him. And instead of facing it and saying, I'm sorry, I did wrong, he took off. He just took
Mm.
off and started a whole new life in Mexico. And that's where he was like building his new house, his land,
Mm.
his name, like he's just starting from scratch. But instead of facing his mistakes and owning up to them, he just ran. And I truly believe, this is my opinion, I truly believe that he couldn't face the reality, so he made up a whole lie. Like till literally until his deathbed is where he apologized, but like before he had this whole brain thing, cancer thing, he was telling everybody, like our aunts, uncles, everybody, like this whole story that was not true. Like
Mm.
where he was a victim and the victim was the one really the bad guy. And
Yeah.
so he was playing this whole story and he kept going with it and going with it where I truly believe that he started to believe it.
Mm.
And and I just feel like I just don't think it's a coincidence that like this lie like turned into a brain cancer. Like is
Yeah.
that a coincidence? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah, for sure.
cuz he was living this lie for a long time and
Mm.
now he has brain cancer so big in his brain that like they couldn't get it all out and it's like I just don't think it's a coincidence. But
And that's a heavy burden to bear for so long. I remember in my story, I was 22 when I realized, wow, I've messed up so much. I've made so many mistakes. And even that was like it took so much for me to humble myself. And that's the thing with the gospel, why it's so hard to follow Jesus. It takes so much humility. It takes so much like, man, I suck. And I remember when I had to do that. And I feel like it's dangerous. The older you get and the more you kick that can down the road and you just continue to just like ignore, run away, and you don't own up to ultimately how like you are a sinner. We all are, every single one of us. Um, it like I think it really does weigh on you. Like you're saying, it can start to manifest in other ways. And it's like, your dad was pretty old. That's a lot of years of living in a lie and not dealing with your issues.
yeah. No, yeah, I think that that's my personal thing and so I'm seeing sin literally how it just destroyed my dad. Like that lie that he
Mm.
could have just surrendered it and been like and humbled himself back then and been like I made a mistake. I'm not
Mm.
perfect. Forgive me. Like no, he carried on this lie and was just so prideful. And so anyway, so I'm seeing now sin in a physical form and now it almost like scared me a little bit because now I'm like, shoot, do I have that? I know we all have pride and even that, even the generic pride that we all are born with, like I'm even
Generic.
worried about that and I'm worried about like generational, like do I have that generational stronghold?
Mm.
And even like the bit of pride that we all have, I didn't even want that. I'm like, if this is what it's gonna do to me, I don't want that, and
Yeah.
it scared me. It made me analyze myself, and I'm just like, Lord, please, if there's any anything in me, like pride or any sin that could do this to me, I
Yeah.
need you to please show me because I don't want this. You know,
And I love that point that you make because to me, that's the biblical response to when you see, other people's sins and shortcomings. Like, I think it's okay for us to judge things. We can make judgments and be like, hey, he made some bad decisions. It's pretty obvious. But I think the biblical response in those situations is for us to look at ourselves, right? Ultimately, God is the judge of everybody. So, like, we don't necessarily have to figure out, oh, well, that's going to happen to my dad because he did this. No, you were like, what do I have in me possibly? You know what I mean? And I think that's powerful. It's a great lesson.
yeah, yeah, thank you. And so, like I said, there's quite a bit of revelation. There's a few things he shows me. He shows me the physical, what sin looks like in a physical form. He shows me his grace when, and I'm battling wrath, no grace,
Yeah.
So it was a lot. And then another thing was he showed me how short this life is because we had our baby 2 weeks prior to this. And I remember like holding his hand, this tiny little fresh life who doesn't have memories yet. Like he hasn't begun making memories and living his life. And then when I'm saying goodbye to my dad, I'm holding his hand and I'm seeing someone saying goodbye to this world
Mm,
and saying goodbye to all the memories and everyone he loved. And so I just saw how quick this life is.
mm,
I know you hear about it, you read about it, but it was such a visual for me that it like hit home and it almost gave me this like, oh my gosh, like it made me want to take life a lot more serious.
yeah.
And it just, cause like I don't feel 32, and I'm gonna be 33. I feel like I honestly feel
Young
like
and
I'm like
spry.
early 20s and then I get humbled real quick that I'm not. But and you talk about how you feel like you
Yeah.
were just 5 yesterday. It
Yeah.
goes fast. And that's even if we actually live our full term. That's like you still have
Yeah.
things can happen, and you may
Mm,
not live your full term. So it's like so life is really delicate, very short, and I just saw this glimpse of how fast from my baby to my dad, and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." And so it was just so much. I remember okay, God, like I was just like, I need a break. This is a lot,
mm,
Like this is too much. I don't know why you're showing me this. Like I don't know. I just wanted to say goodbye. And it was just a lot. And then the final thing was like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm crying, and then the nurse comes in because she's about to push more, like morphine, more meds, and she told me that he was awake, like he's waking up. At this point, he's not opening his eyes anymore, but he's like conscious, so he could hear you. She's like, he can hear you. He can, if you hold his hand, he can feel you. And so if you want to say anything, you have like seconds. I'm gonna push meds in. And even that alone, I was very surprised that I even got to that point. I thought he was like almost
yeah.
like long gone where I can't say anything.
That's a blessing
It
then.
was
Yeah.
a blessing. And so
Mm,
so now she's like, say whatever you want. And my sisters wanted me to say something because they were in Texas with him. And so, they're just like, "Hey dad, Karina's here." And I like started talking to him. And I just remember like the Lord was like, "Karina, you need to tell him he was a good dad." And I started to struggle because I don't feel like he was a good dad. I'm just like, I don't want to lie to him, you know? And and then God's like, "No, Karina, he was a good dad." Because he's like, you're going off of my standards. So, like, to you, he's not, but he doesn't know me. He didn't know me. He didn't go off of my standards. He was going off of his own. And his standards are like, well, if I'm not like my dad, I must be a pretty good dad. Like
yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
had it hard.
technically, yeah, like, yeah, he didn't do any of the things his dad and what he went through. So, really, he wasn't. In his understanding, he did everything he could to not ever give us that childhood.
Yeah.
And so he did his best. And the Lord's like, no, he did his best with what he knew, with what he grew up with. And he did everything he could to not be that guy. And so he was a good dad. And when he told me that, it made a lot of sense. So I told him, like, thank you, I love you, and you were a really good dad. And when I said that, he had tears flowing down his face. And then that was the last time I talked to him.
Mm.
Yeah. Let's just pause. Hold on, I'm sorry.
You're beautiful, baby.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so that's really powerful stuff there. And I remember you telling me, like, your dad left when you were 7, and you actually had a lot of good memories of him when you were younger. I want you to touch on some of those and just kind of honestly honor him a little bit and talk about some of those good things that you remember of him.
Yeah, well, I was a daddy's girl, and I think I was just a tomboy, and I honestly think it started off because I wanted to be like him, because in my eyes, it's like, "Oh, wow, he is, like, he's doing big things, he's a cool guy."
Yeah.
Um, but, like, I remember him, like, just teaching me how to ride my bike and, like, always telling me, like, "Don't give up." So I think a lot of who I am, though, is like him. Like, I'm a visionary, and I think I saw him always showing me that you can do something if you put your
Mm.
mind to it,
Wow.
because yes, his mom's family came from money, but he didn't, because, like, she was kind of,
Uh,
so he had to almost, like, rebuild that. And
and just like I want to honor just that life of coming and making a life here, coming from Mexico.
Mhm.
Like, I've talked to some of your family and some of my family and just people that I know. Like, that is so powerful. That is so hard. I talk about sometimes how I'm like a spoiled American and, like I don't know any other language except English. Like, I cannot fathom going to another country where I don't understand the language and making a living and making a way.
Yeah.
And so, like, that is like, I commend that right there. And for his whole family, like bringing his wife and his kids, but then even his sisters and his brothers, like making a way for the family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, he's a hard worker. Like, he came here with, like, some kind of working visa, and I think he just was like, yeah, he wanted his family to experience that. And
Mm,
but he taught me how to work hard. Like, I always saw him working. He was never just
yeah.
sitting watching TV. If he did, it was like late at night when he was done doing everything. But he also showed me, like, you can do whatever you want if you put your mind to it. Um Yeah, and you can come from nothing and be someone. And um
Mm,
and before he left, like, I think he was there for me. Like, he taught me how to ride my bike. He always, tried to teach me new things. He's the one who taught me how to properly eat, grab my silverware and be proper. And then
I
I
remember.
showed you.
Yeah, you showed me. I definitely needed help there. But
Yeah.
I also remember you talking about how you were a brat and then you got your first spanking,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
helped
and
you get in line a
I
little
think
bit.
he spoiled me, made me a brat, but then one time I talked back. I think that's where I learned, okay, just
Yeah,
don't talk back.
just don't put up.
Yeah, but no, so I think there's a lot, and I know there's a reason why it was a big impact when he was out of my life, because he had a big impact when he was in it. It
Mm,
just sucks that that's how it happened. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
and I'm
yeah,
thankful he ended up coming back at some point, and I got to take our kids
and
and
you got to meet
the
him.
first was it the first 2 or 3 of
3, Rylan was like,
Rylan, or
or she was less than 1.
she
Yeah.
was less than 1, so we actually have a picture of him with some of our kids, and
Yeah.
I got to
I was
talk with
glad that I
them.
got to introduce you, and
Yeah,
you got to meet my kids.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanna dive in a little bit more about pride and just kinda touch on that specifically. Pride is such a powerful thing, and we actually just watched that animated movie recently, David, and I remember, like, Saul, he's king, and there were so many moments where he was so close on the edge of, like, his pride breaking down, and he's having these moments where he's like, oh, you can tell, like, he wants to surrender to God's will. He wants to let it go, but like his pride is so strong and it makes it so hard for him. And that is really like, the lesson here is just, again, like we were talking about earlier, like pride can be such a dangerous thing to let it's like you just let a little bit in for just just the littlest bit, and it can just start to grow and you don't even realize it, and before you know it you are just like completely lost. And like I said, when I think of Saul, all the times he was so close and yet he continues to harden his heart. Another one is Pharaoh, in Exodus, like it's almost like he kind of almost gets there but then he hardens his heart again, and pride is a real battle.
Yeah, I think it's like when we pretend to be God. Like,
Mm.
we got it under control. We don't need you anymore. So, yeah, so now at this point, this revelation, I shared it with you. I think I didn't tell you right away. I think you thought I was just grieving, like your
Yeah.
typical, but I wasn't ready to share it because it was a lot. I was still trying to process, like, what the heck is going on? Why did you show me all this? And the thing is, like, I was doing everything I could before this, before my baby was born. I was really taking care of myself to not fall in postpartum depression
Mm.
because I struggle with it with every baby. Not super bad, but just where I just feel down for a while. And so I mean, I slept early, I slept more, I ate good, and then boom, this happens. And now I fell into the darkest, like, hardest depression ever. And I even took a year off of school because I was like, I almost tried going because of my pride. Like, no, I must keep going. And I was like, I am not in any place to
Mm.
be. I mean, I was waking up crying, like
Yeah.
longing for death, never hurting myself, nothing. But I was just like, why am I awake? Because all these feelings, all these emotions from what I experienced would come back. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this information. I just want to, I don't know. Why
Mm.
did you trust me with this? Why did you tell me this?
Yeah.
So now I finally shared with you everything you showed me, and you were like, holy crap. Like, you were just mind blown, like, wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
I remember that. It was so powerful. I think after that we decided like you probably just needed to take a break. You took some time off of school. I think you stepped away from your part-time job at that point. And this was a moment where the Lord really started working in me and he was just saying, "All right, Ryan, it's time for you to step up and be the provider that I'm calling you to be." We've got plenty more of the story to come, so make sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you're never left out on what's to come.